Hey everyone, welcome back to the Farms in BC podcast. I'm your host Nav Seacon, and we've got a very special guest here today. His name is Jerome Cavanagh. He's here with Cooperators, Wadi Insurance Services. And today we're going to be discussing everything that's related to farm insurance. We're going to be talking about properties that are in the floodplain. We're going to be talking about homes, barns, buildings, and how to get insurance for all of your farming needs. Stay tuned. Well, Jerome, thanks for coming out. We do really appreciate you coming out here. I think a lot of our guests are going to take a lot of knowledge away from what we're going to discuss today. I know insurance has been a very big topic, especially for the last 3-4 years, as policies have gotten harder to get, policy rates have increased. So it would be nice to pick your brain and get some insight on why this is all happening and how you can help a lot of our farming clients.
Well, thanks, Nav, for having me on the show, and I really appreciate the opportunity to speak to your audience.
Nice. So tell us about yourself. What's your background?
Well, I started working in the insurance industry in 2008 for an accounting firm. We did insurance loss accounting. I did that for a few years and actually became licensed to sell insurance in about 2011.
Yeah.
A few years after that, I worked at a financing company. I did agricultural financing, which gave me some good experience in the agricultural industry.
Yeah.
I learned a lot about different operations, whether it's dairy, poultry, berry farms, mixed-use farms, hobby farms. And then I worked my way to Cooperators. I've been at Cooperators now for 2.5 years. Cooperators Wadi Insurance, located in Ventura Ave.
Yeah.
And, it's been really good. Our office was actually number one in 2024 for new farm sales. So
Nice.
we're doing things right. We're giving the right coverages, and we're giving a competitive premium as well.
Yeah, just telling the guests how we met. We met at the agriculture show, 2 years ago?
Yeah.
Not this one, but the one previous. And we've always wanted to get someone that has insurance background to come on this show. That led up to me and you still keeping in touch, and then me giving you some of my clients, and I can say you nailed all of them out of the park. And then my family's personal farm insurance, and now I think you're helping my other family members as well, which is really good and comforting that when you are with your insurance companies, you tend to want to not venture out of your comfort zone and try new other companies. So we were in that position where we were always, for I think 25-30 years, with the same insurer and same insurance broker. And then when you came along, we let's give it a shot. And we were very happy with your guys' services. And I think all my clients that are saying the same things. So we really appreciate you coming along and saving some of our deals too.
Right. Well, I definitely appreciate the kind words. And with insurance, relationships is a big piece. Trust is a big piece. And I look forward to our partnership together through these years and helping out customers. I mean, a lot of times insurance, it's a long document. People might not know exactly what they're insured for.
Yeah.
And I try to bring clarity to customers, go over in details what their needs are and make sure that, they're covered properly.
So as you know, for the last 3-4 years, hot topic has been insurance. And it's not just been on the farming sector. It's been for basic house insurance, basic liability insurance, fire insurance, earthquake insurance, you name it. So in the last 3-4 years, what's changed? Why have these policies significantly A, gotten harder to get approved, and B, the premiums have, I don't know the percentages. Maybe you can talk on that 3-4 years ago to now. How much have they differed?
Yeah, well, unfortunately, the premiums have been going up, and I don't see them coming down anytime soon too. I mean, with all the severe weather events that we've had, I know wildfires, floods, hailstorms, you name it. Actually, in 2024 was a record year for claim payouts here in Canada. So part of the reason is, buildings are getting older.
Yeah.
insurance companies' underwriting is getting a little tighter. So the requirements to qualify for insurance is getting tougher. So what can make it tougher? Age of a building, condition of the building. You can have an older building, but it's in great shape. You can tell that it's been maintained. There's been some updates. When we talk about updates, we talk about the year of the roof has been replaced. If you got a 50-year-old roof that's rusty, it's going to be hard to qualify for insurance.
Has that been even like 3-4 years ago? I've always realized it was, but even those buildings were easier to get insured. Now it seems like a lot of the insurance companies are either they're just getting a lot pickier, or they're being very selective, or I think it's a risk appetite as well, right? Like, I think they're trying to look at their risk for what's happening out there.
Well, yeah, in a perfect world, when we go to insure somewhere, it'd be a brand new building, brand new everything, right? But the reality is, it's not the way. I mean, there's certain things you can do to maintain the building, housekeeping, keeping things, debris away from the farm. I mean, that's more of a liability aspect where, underwriters look at the full picture. So even if it is an older building, what has been done to upgrade the building? It could be new heating, could be new plumbing, new wiring. And if it is an older building, there could be, you can always get an inspection. Some people have electrical wiring monitoring that helps mitigate the risks, right? I mean, it all depends on.
Well, I think good thing you said is inspection.
Right.
I actually never thought of that. So if a farmer feels that his barn, even though it's old, it's in good condition, it doesn't leak, there's no problems with it, would a farmer have a better chance of getting these buildings or barns insured if they had a proper detailed inspection on it?
Absolutely. I mean, that could help. I mean, myself as a salesperson, I'm presenting a story to my underwriters.
Yeah.
I know there's criteria that have to be met. Having inspections would definitely help in getting insurance. I mean, you can get a roof company to come in.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe they'll tell you have to replace the roof, or maybe they got to redo the certain sections of it. I mean, you want to be proactive to mitigate future loss. The last thing we want as an insurance company is to insure something and then the year after a claim happens. I mean, we're in a business to make money, of course, but we also there for customers when something does go bad. But the upfront underwriting is important. But in inspection, I mean, electrical inspection would be huge, especially for an older barn. I mean, in barns, there could be lots of moisture. There could be rodents going around.
Yeah.
You could be days away from a major fire, which, of course, is major financial loss.
Yeah.
So an inspection would definitely help.
Yeah.
That's
I think aside from an inspection just for the sake of getting insurance, it may cost the property owner maybe $15,000 to fix everything up. But like you said, it's a big financial loss. It doesn't mean that at least now you're aware as an individual of what the problem is. You taking the next year to fix everything and then maybe go back a year later to get that insurance. Because regardless, even if you have insurance, nobody ever wants to put in a claim. Nobody wants a big disaster or their barn burning down or their house burning down. Being proactive, it's always a great thing. And I don't think anybody ever thinks to do that.
Right.
Right? So and then repairing all that stuff not only gives the individual as the owner that wants to live on that property that, hey, my building infrastructure, it's been inspected, it's been fixed, it's been up to code, it's up to date. And now I've got my ultra security, which is the insurance that if anything ever does happen that's out of my control, that everything is good and covered.
Absolutely. I mean, there's a lot of times when I get the address that we're looking to insure, I can do a Google Street View or satellite view, or when I go on the property, I can kind of get a general idea right away if it's going to be a hard one to insure, if it's going to qualify. I mean, not every building's insurable, but the initial image of the building plays a huge factor, because it shows, that the landowner does have some care for the buildings, and, general maintenance, general housekeeping plays a huge factor in the whole picture of things.
Now, when it came to the floods in Sumas, flooding has also been a big issue with insurance. It's gotten much harder since that flood happened. It's been much harder to get any insurance for properties that are in the floodplain. Can you speak on that, and which types of buildings will get approved? What won't get approved? What is the criteria? What do they really look for?
Right. Well, I'm happy to say that during those floods, we were able to help out a lot of our customers.
And I think your insurance company was one of the ones that I saw advertised of putting out those claims and actually paying out a lot of the farmers that had that.
Right. Yeah. No, we did well during that time. And I mean, an unfortunate event, but we were there to support our farmers when it did happen. In terms of, there's some companies that don't offer flood insurance at all.
Yeah.
There's some that offer it, but on a limited basis. So they could say, well, we'll give you $30,000 or $50,000.
Yeah.
Or there's some like ourselves that do give full policy limits. It does come at a cost, though.
Higher premiums.
So with our flood coverage, it's under our comprehensive water coverage. You can select the limit that you want to insure for. I mean, it's not a cheap coverage by any means, but there's enough there that you can, repair your basement, or repair the flooring, repair the drywall, get some new furniture. It all depends on where you are in the flood zone. So the way our system works is, I get this address, it's a geocode that goes right on top of the house, and then it'll give me a rate based on where it is. Even inside, the Sumas Prairie area there, I mean, the house could be paying significantly more for the same limit than another house that's maybe, a kilometer or two away. So it just depends on where it sits in the flood zone.
That's right.
So we don't decline flood. I've never had.
That's good to know.
It's always been available, but the cost can be significant depending if you're right in a bad zone. It's going to be available, but I mean, it's a having something is better than nothing.
Well, I think the narrative that has been going around in the public is that it's not available, and I think that's the miscommunication that a lot of insurance companies that don't specialize in agricultural properties or don't have the knowledge. There's a lot of buyers that we meet today that are looking for farms, and they say, well, I don't want to buy in the floodplain because I can't get insurance.
Right.
Then there's a lot of, so there's this narrative going around, and you telling me and the public that, hey, look, there are options out there. We will cover you. It's just not going to be the same policy rate as you might have it out of floodplain, but the option's there for you to take if you please.
Right.
Yeah.
And you did ask what type of buildings qualify. I wanted to say it is on dwellings, that the homes that it is available. On barns, it's not available. If you have livestock, flood is covered in that. But it's one of the things. I mean, what happened during the floods too was with the barns. It was a messy situation.
Yeah.
Lots of dirt and water to clean up. But most barns are, your typical frame with metal siding. So when the water went away, it was a matter of putting a few days of work, shoveling the debris out, yeah. And then they were back up to speed to as quick as they could, I guess. But it wasn't. It was more the homes where there's drywall, flooring, furniture, and also if your house is flooded, where are you going to live? Yeah. So you can use that money to go live, in a hotel or an apartment until the repairs are done.
Yeah. Now, going back to buildings, so that was going to be my next questions. Do you guys insure a lot of buildings, big poultry buildings, dairy barns? So in the floodplain, is there an option for farmers to get insurance on big barns?
Yeah. So the size of the barn it doesn't matter. I mean, there's different risks involved with bigger barns. I mean, You got to make sure your trusses are in good condition. And a lot of times with those larger barns, we'll actually send out an engineer to have a look at those. I mean,
Okay.
you can get your ice load or snow load coverage, but it does come down to, once again, age of the barn, condition of the barn, if there's been any upgrades.
Yeah.
But in terms of size of the barn, there shouldn't be any issues. What we've been seeing oftentimes too is what's going on in the barns. Times are a little different now. People want to maximize the revenue. There could be some commercial use in there. What kind of commercial businesses are in there would be part of the questions I would have. And understanding, the underwriting does have criteria to qualify, and you can turn an agricultural building into a commercial building as well. So we do have other options. We do commercial and farm. So sometimes on farms we'll have a commercial building and then a farm policy. So it'd be commercial and farm on the same property.
So in the floodplain, though, those same big buildings could get covered.
Well,
if everything checks out.
Under a commercial policy, you can cover for flood and sewer backup.
For barns?
On a commercial policy, but on a farm policy, only the dwelling is available. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So, I mean, some have like processes that go on in a farm building, so we can convert them into a commercial building, and then cover the equipment and including the flood. So that's one of the nice features of our policies.
So there's a lot of people that everyone has an annual review. Everyone has renewals coming up. When is the best time, do you think, is to kind of go out there and venture out to get more quotes from different companies to get insurance outside of your normal insurance companies?
Yeah, I mean, the nice thing with insurance is that it renews every year, so you know when that renewal is coming up. So, I mean, we typically start the process 6 weeks, 4 weeks in advance. I mean, it doesn't mean it's going to take that long to give you an option. I mean, we can do policies in hours, but we're relatively busy. So if there's a last minute renewal coming in, somebody comes and says, well, I need something tomorrow. Depending on the complexity, it could take weeks. So I would say a general rule of thumb: start the process a month before, because in that we got to gather all the information. I typically go out and see the property. I take some pictures, build that relationship with the customer too, to build that trust. And then once we get that information, we got to input it in our computer system. It's got to be reviewed by our underwriter. And then we're presenting that quote. So, I mean, it could take hours, but it can also take weeks. So the more advanced notice that you can provide to your insurance agent, the smoother. So you're not, last minute having to make a quick decision. You can make an informed decision having that quote well in advance.
But so when you get a quote from your underwriter, how long is that quote valid for?
It's usually valid for it's 30 days.
30 days.
Yeah.
So you want to try to even actually meet them 45 to 60 days out.
Yeah.
If you can hold a rate for 30 days,
right?
And then you have enough time to make that informed decision. Give you a couple of weeks to go ahead and do your thing.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. Our process is to submit it a month before, 30 days before. So then it's
another question that I have with policies is a lot of people will ask, well, why is my neighbor paying less than I am? I found out that they're paying X amount. Why am I paying more? Our buildings are similar. Our houses are similar. Why is that? So do you want to speak on like how they really determine these rates?
Yeah, I mean, there's multiple factors that go into an insurance premium.
Yeah.
I mean, each property is different, not only on the type of buildings that's on the property, the limits that you're insured for, the deductibles can be different. The coverages could be, one could have earthquake, one could have flood. I mean, the age of the buildings, the age of the insured. Some companies give discounts for mature farmers.
Yeah.
Claims, I mean, if you haven't had claims in 5 years, it makes a big difference as well. Conditions of buildings, have there been upgrades to the homes? All that plays into account. I mean, how far you are from a fire hydrant, fire halls, even, like I said, even if you're a kilometer away, the flood rating could be massively different.
Yeah.
So, I mean, no two properties are exactly the same. So, I mean, we'll always have a look at if you can get your neighbor's policy.
Yeah.
I mean, without having that, it's hard to really judge, how different or similar the properties are. But in general, everyone has their own, their own risk factor. And I forgot to mention too that, your credit score plays into it as well. So I don't think you're going to ask your neighbor,
I didn't know that.
What their credit. Yeah. So you get with, I guess, the insurance companies view a good credit score as, a more responsible kind of insured. So it does help.
You also mentioned deductible. Now, I know some people go with the higher deductible. Actually, most people go with the lower deductible. How much savings do you actually get when you put it like a higher deductible? Like, is it a big savings or?
Well, I mean,
when do you see people usually execute the higher deductible versus?
Right. Well, unfortunately, with the premiums going up as they have been, the last few years, our practice is to offer the higher deductible. I mean, people can start at a standard $1,000 deductible. You go to $2,500, you go to $5,000, you go to $10,000. But I mean, in terms of how much you're going to save, I mean, it depends on the value of the home, but it could be actually quite significant enough for people to make those changes. But yeah, I mean, at a certain point, once you get to the highest level that you're comfortable with, there's not really much more that you can do to reduce your premium. So that's what we've been coming across, quite often is we do offer, especially if somebody's at $1,000 to go to $2,500. On a smaller policy, it could be hundreds of dollars. On a bigger policy, it could be thousands of dollars.
Now, when it comes to the premiums, I know a lot of people don't like to put small claims in because they don't want their premiums to go up. Have you ever, when do you see the premiums really go up? Like, how big does the claim, did you have to max out that one individual claim? Is it 50%, 25%? Like, when is it safe to just say, hey, you know what? It's not worth me going through my insurance. I'd rather just pay for it myself versus, hey, I should go through my insurer because.
Right. Well, it really is a case-by-case basis, and we kind of make that judgment call. I mean, the nice thing at Cooperator is that you can talk to a claims person about a claim and not be penalized about talking about it, where certain companies will actually count that against your rate. Next time. Yeah.
Oh, the renewal.
So yeah, exactly. So it depends, right? I mean, you can, if your deductible's $1,000 and you have a $5,000 claim, so you're essentially the payout would be $4,000. But for the next 5 years, you'll be paying a premium because you've lost your claims-free discount.
Yeah.
So I mean, you got to take that in consideration. Would it be $4,000? It could be pretty close to it. I mean, each company has a different model for claims, but we try to advise our customers, if it's a smaller one, to just eat that cost. Because you never know, you could have a small one today,
a big one,
and then a big one, and now all of a sudden you have two. I mean, insurance companies they're there to pay claims, but I mean, seeing a frequency of claims will hurt your chance of qualifying for insurance.
So say if it was a smaller claim and he was talking to the underwriter. Is it underwriter or credit?
It'd be an adjuster.
Adjuster, sorry.
Yeah.
So if he's talking to an adjuster and they decide, okay, hey, I'm going to fix it myself, and he fixes it himself, then on renewal, does he have to prove that he got it fixed?
We typically take the insured's word for it, depending on what happened, what the claim was. I mean, sometimes we'll ask for a picture. or we'll do an inspection. We'll go
Do
out
a
there
walkthrough, yeah.
and make sure everything was fixed, or even invoices showing that the work was done. So and then if they do it themselves and they don't go through the claim process, it doesn't affect your
Premium.
Your premium, yeah.
Okay.
Your claims-free discount.
So on your renewal, when you're looking to get not a renewal, or even a quote, what pieces of information should people get together before they call you out to get an estimate, to get a quote?
Right. Well, I mean, essentially, we're filling out an application. So even the most basic information of who's on title, the address, contact information, which is all pretty simple stuff that you can get from providing your current insurance.
Yeah.
I mean, I always tell customers, feel free to block the premium that you're paying. The intent is to see your policy, provide an opinion of where maybe your insurance is lacking, and maybe bring up things that you had no idea were on your policy. Yeah. Maybe you're underinsured, maybe you're overinsured. And then you get an understanding of the limits that they're insured for, the deductibles. So overall, a smoother process if you do provide your current policy. Otherwise, I mean, there's no problem going through and asking all the questions. But
do you need like type of wiring, type of plumbing, square footage, age of all infrastructure?
Yeah, all that information, all the underwriting information, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, there's certain plumbing out there that
it's just not.
There's certain companies, Poly B plumbing is not their favorite thing, and they won't be insuring it. So, it's important to know all that stuff. And if it is an older house, we need to know updates to plumbing, heating, roofing, and electrical. Those are the 4 main things. I know replacing a floor and doing some paint helps the appearance of it, but we're looking for those 4 things. Those are the 4 items that we really ask for and need to know.
How often do you guys decline insurance? Like, what is it going to take for you to look at something and say, hey, that's just not even insurable, but somebody still lives there? And like, when you ever go out and get a quote, do you ever get anyone that you've ever denied before? Or
declines do happen. I mean, there's some buildings out there that even if we don't insure them, there's a liability risk that's involved. I mean, if the roof is flappy and the siding's flappy, and that could fall on somebody. If the windstorm tears off the roof, I mean, and it can fall on someone, it could fall on something. So, I mean, it does come back to that housekeeping comment that I made before. Keeping things like a maintenance program. I mean, if you're not using a building or there's equipment that's on the property that is not being used, I highly recommend to get rid of it. I mean, bring it to the dump. If you don't have a care for it, just clean things up, because that does affect the overall picture. In terms of buildings themselves, the older buildings that haven't had updates or just aren't not appealing look-wise, it's going to be very tough to get that insurance. I mean, when we submit the application, we do have some underwriting criteria that have to be met in order to qualify. I mean, as a salesperson, we try to get insurance for the customer, but there are some rules that need to be followed in underwriting, and there's some red flags that are there, because I mean, there's risk. It's a risk game, right? So older buildings tend to have more claims.
Yeah. So when it comes to just bigger, like what I've realized over the last 17 years and since I've been doing this, barns have been the most difficult. And they're always I've seen some insurers be, okay, I'm going to insure it or not. Now we've went over a lot about farms, just in farms in general. I know you guys do everything that's insurance related. So you guys just do your basic home insurance if you're not even on a farm. You also do a lot of commercial. Now, when it comes to like agri-industrial, agri-business, you guys take on, do you do like a greenhouse operation? Will you do an entire greenhouse?
Unfortunately, our greenhouse operation, we used to have a program for it, which we don't do anymore. So for us, I mean, I think you talked about mushroom farms before. Like
Mushroom farms,
yeah, that's a very tough market. So in general, when it comes to farm insurance, there's a very limited amount of farm insurance companies. And, you know, we're all looking for best in class farms.
Yeah.
I mean, those, you know, greenhouses we don't specialize in. I would refer it to an outside partner.
Yeah.
I mean, if somebody approaches me and asks about this, I'll tell them if we can do it or not. And then I'm fine with referring it to an outside partner. They're a competitor, but I know that they'll give them a good service overall. So,
okay.
But yeah, there's certain.
What about processing facilities?
Processing facilities would be something that would fall under our risk appetite.
Yeah.
So yeah, berries or manufacturing, food processing.
And what I'm starting to see is I think for the next wave of way people are farming, they are going to start wanting to rely on a lot of these processing facilities. So I know a lot of them are going to start wanting to build smaller facilities on their farms, pack their own food, market their own food to get that extra premium. So it's good to know that you guys are going to be able to cover any newer infrastructures of like these facilities. Now within those facilities, they have a lot of equipment,
right?
So they have freezers, they have conveyor belts, they have forklifts, they have all this equipment. You guys would cover that as well, part of the agri-business facility.
Yeah. I mean, if they could have a farm with lots of acreage
Yeah.
and then a specific building that's made for the manufacturing or processing, we would put that on a commercial policy.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's doable. It's what we like to do.
Yeah. No, it's awesome.
Yeah, and if you go on the commercial, and you're in the flood zone, flood's available.
Yeah. Well, you know what? I appreciate you coming out today, giving us all of your knowledge. What is the best way everyone can get a hold of you?
Yeah, you can just give me a call at 604-798-1123 or email me at Jerome_Cavanagh@cooperators.ca.
Okay, awesome. Thanks for coming out.
Well, I appreciate the time to speak with you.
Awesome.
Thank you.